it began, I believed in the sanctity of family.
He is my husband. If I get trouble, believe me, I will give trouble back.
And every woman's right to have a child of her own.
I gave up everything for you.
And while my faith has been tested, I am still free to believe that my journey was not in vain.
So today we are going to talk about The Handmaid's Tale. The Handmaid's Tale is an award-winning dystopian series that was adapted from the novel written by the author Margaret Atwood. And when they say adapted, I would like to add they took tons and tons of creative liberties when it came to The Handmaid's Tale. I would actually say it was more loosely inspired by, but not necessarily adapted. Even describing the series as dystopian, it wasn't really Margaret Atwood's objective when it came to writing the books. I believe she had said that the books were to sort of project societies and cultures that were being run by religious extremists that existed at the time. That means existed presently, not some dystopian nightmare future, and trying to sort of point out and project these cultures as a warning of what can happen in the West. So if you watched Handmaid's Tale and you look at this religious extremist government that has taken over America, it is loosely based off of Christianity and Catholicism, but more or less mirror other religious extremist groups that have taken over countries like Iran and Afghanistan. The TV show is run on Hulu and is produced or directed by Bruce Miller. Today, we are actually just going to hyper-focus on Serena, who plays the main wife of Fred. So, The Handmaid's Tale is an amazing series, actually, at least the first 2 seasons. From the costume design, from the color grading, from the set design, from the musical scores, from the acting, everything is pretty freaking good. Again, especially the first, second, and maybe somewhat of the third season, it does start to lose its way as it keeps going on, and it is definitely at risk at being one of those seasons who run on too long and just sort of start to lose its grasp on the essence of how it started. So before the first season was even premiering, because Donald Trump was either campaigning to be president or was becoming president, a lot of actors or feminists on the social media ground touted The Handmaid's Tale as some sort of feminist anthem or some sort of prophetic prediction of what would happen if you allow Donald Trump to become president or stay president. But again, if you listen to a lot of older Margaret Atwood's interviews about her book, maybe she's tweaked her tune now because of woke culture, but it wasn't really about that necessarily. What it was about was what happens when you sort of fearmonger and push extremes to create fanaticals that would create these fanatical groups that can take over communities and societies using religious cultures and countries at the time that already exist. And even if you watch the first season, it wasn't like that at all. They actually poked fun of some of the woke progressive talking points. There was a scene where June's friend, the actress who plays in The Orange is the New Black, where she has this sort of whole monologue about how it is to be a feminist, and then asks June's husband, Luke, to walk her to her car because she was too scared to walk at night alone. After again going on this monologue of how strong women were and that they didn't need men. For me, what I got out of the first season, honestly, was not allowing government to have too much power over its citizens. Because if a government enacts sort of this emergency power, they don't grab it out of nowhere. They implement policies over time, so when they want to grab all that power, it's easier for them to do so. When they start closing women's bank accounts or not allowing them to work, again, more reminiscence of other religions than Christianity or Catholicism. However, those things were done because policies were put into place ahead of time. The citizens were either voting in, giving their government more power over them, or just wasn't paying attention to what was happening around them.
I was asleep before. That's how we let it happen. When they blamed terrorists and suspended the Constitution, we didn't wake up then either.
And the biggest power grab grab that the government had over America was taking their guns. When the huge fanatical religious group sort of took over the government, eventually by military or by force, by the end of a gun, the citizens really had no way to protect themselves. They walked towards men in armed geared and guns with protest signs. There was even a scene where June and Luke was trying to escape. Someone tried to help them, gave Luke a gun, and he actually hesitated to take the gun to protect his own freaking kids and wife. What the fuck? So for the most part, I didn't get this sort of "we are women, hear us roar" kind of thing from the first season of Handmaid's Tale. However, from the second season, they definitely made up for that. I believe this was after Trump became president, and I think they definitely doubled down on the whole be a feminist sort of talking point, to the point where June actually breaks the fourth wall. I believe it's the scene where she was trying to escape the first time to a plane. She breaks the fourth wall, looks into the camera and says, "Mothers, raise your daughter as feminist."
Raise your daughter to be a feminist. She spends all her time waiting to be rescued by men.
I don't know if I can find that exact clip. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find all the clips that really represents what I'm trying to say, because it's been 4 seasons and I definitely can't go through every single episode, somehow figure out how to download it and somehow, scour to find each clip. I'll do the best I can to find the clips to represent what I'm trying to say. But yes, the second season, they definitely made up for that. They had a whole storyline about June's mom and how she was a feminist and all these things. So they definitely made up for it, which is when it became annoying. Again, I don't have a problem with TV shows or movies having a message, but I'm not an idiot. The fact that women were the ones who were suffering the most, not to say men never suffered because they had their wives and their children snatched for them and they were pretty helpless in that. I mean, they wouldn't have been if they maybe had some guns, but the women were the ones who were imprisoned. The women were the ones who were being systematically and routinely assaulted. The women were the ones who had to be forcibly impregnated and then having their babies taken away from them. The women were the ones who were having daily abuse bestowed onto them. The women were the ones who, for the most part, had to rescue themselves. We know that is about women. We don't need you to scream it and spell it out to us. Like, we're not idiots. Now I want to talk about Serena. The first season, and maybe some of the second season, when Serena was presented to us, the audience, she was presented as a strong female character. She was strong, she was smart, she was intelligent, she was an author, and she wasn't sort of this underlinging to Fred. She was side by side next to him. She was one of the people that helped sort of create Gilead, to get people to become fanatical about Gilead by propaganding talking points and speeches and conferences and stuff like that. She talks about helping to write and create the outlining and the bullet points and the rules of Gilead and how it would be created and how it would be run.
I was thinking fertility as a national resource, reproduction as a moral imperative.
You're amazing. And the Lord God caused his sleep to fall upon Adam, and he took out one of his ribs and closed up the flesh and stepped thereof.
She's so stupid. Did it set an example for our daughter?
Look at this.
After a scene of Serena being an absolute monster. In some ways, in my opinion, Serena was worse than Fred.
I expect you know the rules.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't call me ma'am. Don't get any ideas. If I get trouble, believe me, I will give trouble back. I want to see as little of you as possible. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Mrs. Waterford.
Yes, Mrs. Waterford.
This is what we wanted. Our policies and ideas discussed in the mainstream. You did that.
We're saving them. We're doing God's work.
All the gifts you've been given. But you need everything to be exactly how you want. Spoiled little girl.
Get up. Get up. Go back to your room. Are you deaf?
Now, Aunt, if you would.
You will stay here, and you will not leave this room. Do you understand me? Get up! Get up! Do you understand me?
Yes, Mrs. Waterford.
Sit down. Things can get much worse for you.
You want me to stay silent, but that is not going to change what is happening in our country!
You're deranged. You're fucking evil. You're a goddamn motherfucking monster.
But it seemed like at some point during the series, and I'm not exactly sure when this swing started to happen, it was either towards the end of the second season or the third season, where it seemed like they were attempting to give Serena a redemption arc. They were either attempting it or winking or flirting with it or going towards that to see how the audience and the fans will react. And I truly believe they were actually going to do this if the audience and the fans reacted positively towards a redemption arc for Serena, because the actress who plays Serena herself right around that time came out and did an interview and said that her character Serena, the wife of Fred, was just as much as a victim as the Handmaids. Which I'm like, how the fuck did you pull that out of your ass? Serena, again, which was presented to the audience as a strong female character that can think for herself, that very much wanted Gilead to happen with all the toxic negativity, horrible things that they do. She was pro kidnapping these women. She was pro having them as assaulted on a regular basis. She was pro having them forcefully impregnated. She was pro taking those babies away from them. She was an absolute monster. But somehow she deserves to be redeemed. But somehow she's just as much of a victim as the Handmaids. What the hell? She doesn't have to experience any of that abuse, any of that trauma, any of that torture. But again, at some point, I really believe that the series was trying to swing that way. And the reason why is because of feminist ideology. I could be wrong, but that's what I believe. We have seen it time and time again, sort of throughout entertainment for years now. This arc that women aren't equal to men. Women are better than men. Women are more moral than men. Women have more values than men. Women have better principles than men. And if women do something bad, it's not because they're inherently bad, it's because they were manipulated by a man or by the system or by patriarchy. They had internalized misogyny, or they just loved a really bad man. And that bad man influenced their behavior. Or they're just sort of weak-minded and got manipulated by their husbands or their boyfriends or their lovers. It's not because they just are bad. I've seen this happen throughout so many TV shows and so many movies and so many books. It is absolutely mind-numbing.
I gave up everything for you.
If women are equal to men, that means women can be equally bad and they should be held accountable for their bad behavior. And if you keep with this narrative that women aren't accountable for their bad behavior, but somehow was manipulated into it, then you get people like Amber Heard. Now, I know S-Assault is S-Assault, but if you don't forget, if you watch the season or the series, the scene where Fred and Serena brutally S-Assault June when she's about 8 months pregnant and she's begging them to stop. Whose idea was that? That was Serena's idea. I'm not saying Fred isn't guilty either, but what I'm saying is I don't understand how this series even flirted with the idea of giving Serena a redemption arc if it wasn't based on feminist ideology. Feminists are better than men. Women are better than men. So we can't have them look just as bad as the men. We somehow have to give them a redemption arc.
The doctor refuses to induce.
There's nothing we can do but wait for the baby to come.
Do you really think so?
I suppose there are ways. Baby might come out sooner.
I think the best way is the most natural way.
I need you to know what it was like between us. No.
There's a lot of ways that producers, directors, and creators will try to manipulate their audience to sort of steer them or direct them a certain way. And one of the ways is giving a character a background. And usually some sort of tragic background. So you have some sort of empathy for them. And then they do that by musical score, giving them some sort of sad music to make you feel bad for them, or give them upbeat music to make you feel happy during a situation. You use lighting to do that. You give them gray, bluish gray lighting to make it look drab and sad, or you give them bright colors and bright lighting to make it look happy. You use levels. If someone's supposed to be the dominant one, or someone's supposed to be the one who's oppressed, you will make the oppressor a little bit higher than the oppressed and look like they're domineering over them. There's a lot of tricks to do that. And when they want Serena to look strong, they put her side by side next to Fred, and they want Serena to look weak, they change the level up a bit and make Fred look like he's a bit more domineering over Serena. And then they give you scenes like Serena being spanked by Fred or having her finger chopped off. But again, these are rules she helped create. She knew that these things were happening because she was very pro them before they started to backfire on her. And one of the blatant tactics that I saw when it came to leveling and lighting was the point where Serena went into the Council of Men, because all of a sudden she decided she wanted equal rights for women because her pseudo-daughter that she stole from June after assaulting her and forcing her to be pregnant, decided that she wanted her daughter, June's child, to have more rights in Gilead. So she went to the Council of Men, and it was blatantly obvious what they were trying to portray to the audience. Serena was above the men. Serena was in light, almost as an angel, and the men were in dark, almost as sort of evil, right? And again, this was right around the time where it seemed like they were attempting to give Serena a redemption arc. And I just thought that whole thing was utterly disgusting, and more disgusting because I really believe they attempted to do that, and it would have paid off if the audience would have gone for it. And I'm happy to say, for the most part, the audience was not going for it. There were a few Serena fans that probably was really rooting for that, but for the most part, everybody was like, what the fuck is actually happening? And again, the only reason why I think they were trying to push that is for pure feminist ideology. Again, women are not equal to men in their minds. Women are better than men in their minds. So women can't be guilty of the same things men are guilty of. Again, somehow they were manipulated. Serena went from being a strong, powerful woman to being this sort of weak, soft, docile wife to Fred when they tried to give her this redemption arc. Now that didn't work, they're bringing the old Serena back into play, and I'm glad to see that. I still don't know if they're going to try to weasel this redemption arc in or not. Probably not. Doesn't seem like it's going to work. But yeah, that's it, guys. That's all I really wanted to talk about. I didn't want to make this video too long, but I just wanted to point that out because I'm just sick of this narrative happening, and you just see it over and over and over again. Besides that, Handmaid's Tale is a good show, and I would recommend it. It's really hard to watch. I mean, if you are very sensitive to a lot of triggers, to abuse, I wouldn't recommend it. It is actually very hard to watch, especially the first 2 seasons. It's like you really don't get a lot of relief from the abuse. You don't get a lot of moments of like the villains getting their comeuppance. And so it's hard to watch. It is hard to watch, especially the assault scenes and stuff like that. A lot of the characters, a lot of the acting is phenomenal. And I also believe that the idea that June is this oppressed wife but also a superhero that somehow just narrowly escapes every situation is really unrealistic, and a lot of people have been complaining about that. However, I still say the show is worth a watch. I'm going to continue watching The Handmaid's Tale because I'm invested to see what happens to the characters. I'm really hoping it doesn't continue on and on and on. But I mean, if Trump runs for president again, they probably will continue it just so they can weasel that into the script. But anyway, guys, tell me what you think. Have you watched this show? Were you kind of throwing up in your mouth a little bit when you saw this really failed attempt to give Serena a redemption arc? Are you going to continue to watch this show? Let me know in the comment section below. And that's it, guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell to get the notifications when I do upload. All of that really does help with the algorithm. And if you'd like to support this channel any further, you can donate. My PayPal and Cash App link is in the description box below and also in the comment section. Of course, it helps, but you don't have to. You can just like, comment, and subscribe. Another great way to support this channel is either join my brand new membership program, different levels, different tiers, different perks, or you can visit my brand new merch shop. Links down below, and links to all of the eternal platforms I'm on, my socials, including my Twitter, all the ways to support me, and other ways to contact me for business is always in the links down below. Other than that, you guys have an amazing day. Bye.